Хайырлы таң, құрметті әріптестер, құрметті қонақтар. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests. Доброе утро, уважаемые участники Конгресса. Я рад приветствовать вас на сегодняшнем 27-м Конгрессе Всемирной ассоциации кардиоваскулярных и торакальных хирургов. Для зачитывания приветственного слова от президента Республики Казахстан Назарбаева Нурсултана Абишевича слово предоставляется государственному секретарю Республики Казахстан Гульшаре Наушаевне Абдыкаликовой.
Участникам 27-го Всемирного конгресса кардиоваскулярных и торакальных хирургов, уважаемые дамы и господа, от всей души приветствую участников 27-го Всемирного конгресса кардиоваскулярных и торакальных хирургов, собравшихся в нашей столице Астане. Здоровье народа и качественное развитие сферы здравоохранения – одни из главных приоритетов нашего государства. Казахстан является одной из немногих стран мира, где бесплатная высокоспециализированная медицинская помощь доступна всем слоям населения. Сегодня в созданном Национальном научном кардиохирургическом центре выполняются все виды кардиохирургических операций, жизненно важных для его многих пациентов. Благодаря этим успехам он стал одним из лидеров не только казахстанской, но и мировой кардиохирургии. Ярким подтверждением тому является ваш глобальный форум, который собрал ведущих специалистов сферы, готовых воплотить свои знания и профессионализм во благо здоровья всего человечества. Уверен, что Конгресс станет уникальной и полезной площадкой для обмена опытом, поиска новых эффективных путей решения актуальных вопросов современной кардиохирургии. Желаю вам плодотворной работы, здоровья, успехов в вашей благородной деятельности. Президент Республики Казахстан Нурсултан Назарбаев. Желаю вам хорошей плодотворной работы.
Ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce myself. My name is Almaz Sharman. I am a president of Academy of Preventive Medicine, a member of the board of the National Cardiac Surgery Center. It's my privilege to moderate this opening session after this speech by Her Excellence, Madam Secretary of State Abdikalikova. Today's international conference of the World Society of Cardiothoracic Surgeons meets 27th time in the capital city of Astana. It's a great honor for us to host 27th World Conference. The World Society for Cardiothoracic Surgeons is very well known. It unites many experts, cardiothoracic surgeons throughout the world who have a far-sighted judgment and innovative minds to spread knowledge and skills in this area to many, many countries without the borders. And it's my honor to invite as a first speaker in this opening session Dr. Stuart Jamieson, who is endowed chair and distinguished professor of surgery at the University of California in San Diego. Dr. Jamieson is a very well-known cardiac surgeon. He's originally from Zimbabwe and spent a great deal of time in many countries. And he is known for introduction his expertise in pulmonary thromboendarterectomy, PTE, the technique that was adopted by many, many countries. And I just spoke briefly with Dr. Jamieson, and he said that he also had opportunity to operate on monkeys at the famous San Diego Zoo. Maybe he'll share his experience not only about that, but also about many other his expertise. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. Actually, that was my most famous case, the monkey of Missouri. State Secretary, Mr. President, Chairman Bury, and honored members and guests. It's a great pleasure to welcome you all here to this wonderful city of Astana. Dr. Trappist, the Vice Chancellor, and I visited here 4 years ago, and we're tremendously impressed with the energy of this country and the beautiful city. And at the National Cardiovascular Center, where we visited with Dr. Dembitsky, truly world-class surgery going on. And so we thought it was a very appropriate venue to have the 27th meeting of our society. As you know, this is the only truly world cardiothoracic and vascular surgery society, so we meet in different parts of the world every year in the first week of September. And I feel very passionately about the purpose of this society because it gives an opportunity for various faculty members and visitors to go to different parts of the world, but more than that, it gives an opportunity for the physicians and the junior doctors from those countries to meet with various nationally, internationally known surgeons and listen to talks. So thank you very much for you all. I'd like to personally thank you, Dr. Pia, for all the organization and the organizing committee. I'd like to now introduce Dr. Zamfar, who will make an introduction of the current president, Dr. Robert Kleinberg.
Yes, yes, Dr. Zamfar, please.
I'm sorry, I should have not taken your place on time.
Oh, no, that's supposed to be, that's the plan.
Can I have the slides, please? Can I have the slides? Is there audio-visual? I have to wait for the slides.
Okay, while our colleagues preparing slides, let me introduce Dr. Zamfar. He's from Edinburgh, Scotland. Dr. Zamfar is worked in the area of cardiothoracic surgery for many, many years, and he has expertise in total arterial revasculation, aortic valve surgery, minimally invasive cardiac surgery, surgical audit and outcomes of pump coronary artery surgery, TAVI procedures, and he also editor-in-chief of Journal of Cardiothoracic Surgery. So hopefully our colleagues prepared the slides. Is somebody working on the slides, please?
Okay, thank you. Dear Minister, State Secretary, Professor Pia, Professor Jamason, ladies and guests, as Secretary General of the World Society of Cardiovascular and Thoracic Surgery, it's my privilege to introduce to you our President, Robert Kleinberg. Robert was born in Krugersdorp, South Africa, and his early childhood years were spent in the town of his birth. His parents were Dutch immigrants who migrated to South Africa just before World War II, and they farmed outside Johannesburg. They encouraged him to study agriculture, and the plan was that he would grow up to be a farmer and take over the farms. These are some of the photographs from his childhood. He was academically gifted as well, but more importantly, he was very athletic. He was interested in sports and played cricket, golf, rugby, tennis. He had a number of athletic records to his name as a school student, and especially the one in 100-meter hurdles. In fact, he wanted to be a professional sports person. Unfortunately, during his final school year, he was involved in a serious car accident and sustained a crush injury to his right humerus. Twice the surgeons looking after him advised amputation, and twice his father refused. Anyway, after a period of 3 months in hospital, Robert recovered and went on to study pharmacy at the University of Potchefstroom. He graduated in 1974, and during his time there, he studied pharmaceutics and pharmacology, and his dissertation was on the use of beta agonists as tocolytics. He then spent a year in the National Defense Force as lieutenant, doing compulsory national service. After 1 year doing his national service, he returned to study postgraduate pharmacology and graduated in 1976. In 1977, he joined the medical school in Pretoria and graduated in 1983. He became the fellow of the College of Medicine of South Africa in cardiothoracic surgery in 1990. And since then, he has led a very busy life, involved in some of the major developments of cardiothoracic surgery in South Africa. He has been attached to the University of KwaZulu-Natal for the last 25 years. He started practice in Durban in 1991 and is still active over there. In his professional life, he has many firsts to his credit. He performed the first successful lung transplant in South Africa. He established the first successful heart-lung transplant program in KwaZulu-Natal. He also performed the first heart-lung double transplant in South Africa. In 1994, he started the minimally invasive surgery program in South Africa and performed the first mid-cap operation in South Africa in 1996. He has been the president of the Society of Cardiothoracic Surgeons of South Africa for the last 17 years. He met his wife Annelie, who is in the audience today, in 1978 in Pretoria. They have 4 children. No one is in medicine. 1 daughter is a lawyer. 1 son and 2 daughters are in the creative arts. Besides cardiothoracic surgery, Robert's other interests include sea and river kayaking and golf and outdoor pursuits. He also has 6 farms and owns more than 1,000 Aberdeen's Angus cattle. On one of his farms, he also has a restaurant, a wedding venue, and a beer brewery. He loves his cattle very much. This is one of Robert's patients, Tina Beck-Bessinger, who had a heart and lung transplant patients. And this is a photo taken 6 months after her transplant. And at that time she said, "The world is my oyster. There's nothing I cannot do now." Looking at Robert, we can say, the world is your oyster, Robert. I present to you this multi-talented, multifaceted gentleman, our president, Dr. Robert Kleinlup.
Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Chancellor, Vice Chancellor, honoured guests, Vipin, thank you very much for that very kind introduction and those pictures of my youth. Ladies and gentlemen, I am an African. I live in Africa. I was born, educated, I live and work in South Africa, a country that is blessed with a very rich wildlife. If I can get the slides to work. A country where we have zebra and wildebeest that you can see on National Geographic Channel every day, and where we have lions still eating zebra, but not in the streets. I have a country that is rich in natural beauty. As you can see in the top picture, that is the city of Cape Town, which lies at the foot and in the belly of the Drakensberg, one of the national wonders of the world. But we have also a rich history in medicine. In the top picture you can see John Barlow with our iconic president Nelson Mandela, one of the most respected politicians of our time. John Barlow, of course, described the floppy valve or Barlow syndrome. And to the right is Sir Terence English, the first surgeon to do a transplant in the UK. At the bottom is Donald Ross, who was educated in Cape Town, South Africa, and became very well known in our discipline. And in the bottom right is the more modern icon, Elon Musk, who was educated in Pretoria. This is the 50th anniversary of the first transplant done by Christian Barnard. And let us not forget the gentleman on the left, who is Sidney Brenner, who described with Watson and Crick the first structure of the double helix structure of the DNA molecule. And he was awarded the Nobel Prize for that. I was particularly privileged to work with two icons of thoracic surgery, Ben LaRue and Andrew Logan. Andrew Logan was the first surgeon to do a pneumonectomy in 1934 in the UK. But he also invented the valvulotome, or the Logan's dilator, which Tubbs had put a little screw on and called it by his name. And Tubbs himself said, never has one man become so famous for so little. We used this instrument regularly on a Monday morning to do closed mitral valvotomies, which we did hundreds of, and we probably should be doing them still. But I also live in a country where violence is almost the norm, where you can have a posterior thoracotomy initiated by any instrument, from a screwdriver to a homemade spear. I live in a country in which rheumatic heart disease is endemic, together with other parts of the world, as you can see on this map by the World Health Organization. A country where 50% of the recorded deaths are ascribed and assigned to rheumatic heart disease. I live in a country where rheumatic heart disease has in fact increased since 1975, a report by a South African McLaren. It has almost increased threefold until 2010. In our neighboring country of Mozambique, the incidence is as high as 30 per thousand of the population. And contrast that against the world of technological advancement, the world of the developed, where the biggest taxi company in the world does not own one car, and the biggest hotel company does not own one property, where artificial intelligence is 10 years ahead of its time, where an internet program can diagnose cancer 4 times more accurate than a nurse can, where last year more solar energy was installed worldwide than fossil fuels, and where driverless cars will be introduced in a year from now. Volvo has announced that from 2019, all their cars will be electrically driven. Where we can use 3D printers to print a prosthesis when we do a chest wall resection, or where we can print a model of a congenital heart defect before we fix that. The good news for those of us who are getting a bit long in the tooth is that the life expectancy is increasing every year, and if we can make it to 2036, that life expectancy is to increase by 1 year every year. So if we can make it to that, we're probably going to live forever. In his book, The Tipping Point, Malcolm Gladwell, the author, refers to 3 essentials to get an idea to proliferate exponentially, or to go viral, as we call it today. It starts with the law of the few, where most of the work is done by few. Those connectors, those people who know everybody, and those mavens who know everything. We have seen these tipping points in thoracic surgery. When the idea of a transcatheter placed valve stuck 10 years ago, we thought it was not possible, but Edwards themselves have already had 12,000 implants to date. When the idea of doing an endovascular repair of an aneurysm was sourced initially, we thought it was probably not possible. Medtronic alone in 2014 had already placed 55,000 endovascular stents. VATS is almost the norm to do pulmonary resection, and the Intuitive company has already sold 4,000 robots. I believe that there is a tipping point and a turning point in everyone's professional life, in everyone's personal life, and in the discipline. I had a turning point 4 years ago when this meeting was being held in September in Geneva, where first I lost the use of my foot due to an acute herniated disc, which I had repaired minimally invasively, as you can see from that picture of my back. I also had the birth of a grandchild, which is a turning point in anyone's life. And 2 weeks later, I had a spontaneous hemorrhage in my midbrain, which is not the nicest place to have a hemorrhage. We talk about minimally invasive surgery. It seems to be the talk at every conference. But this is a new technique to do an old procedure, which requires a new approach. You need a very good assistant because you walk in a very small hole. We need to invest in new equipment, in new instruments, in new imaging systems, because we are dealing with a procedure that can come back and bite you. And when that happens, when the pulmonary artery is breached, it bleeds and you're alone in the small hole. But with the help of experts and with colleagues, it is possible to do this procedure through a small hole, and then it can become a way of life and a way of making a living, or it can become a way to go and expose and show off your skills. The problem, however, is with control. If there is no control, we will see a proliferation of these small, minimally invasive units opening up all over the world. And that's when the procedure can actually fall apart. I think in general thoracic surgery, we might be nearing the end of VATS because we're now going towards micro invasion. If the results of the initial trials, like the Rapture trial and the American College of Surgeons Oncology group, although they are small series, but if they are sustainable, then probably we're going to treat bronchial carcinoma with radiofrequency or other source ablation in future. I asked the experts last year at a panel discussion what their thoughts were about a new direction in our discipline and suggested a cardiac interventionist. Their answer was ambivalent. I personally think that the time is right, that the turning point is here, that we should invest our training in future to train and become cardiac interventionists, and that most of our work will in fact happen in the laboratory and not inside the chest. But for that we need to change. We need to change our training. We need to employ simulators. We need to abandon peripatetic small units and train the masses of medical people to do that what is important. The appropriate placement of an intercostal chest tube or the administration of streptokinase initially, that's what saves lives. Those patients must then be ferried off to high-volume centers of excellence, where participation must be open to all, to those in private, to those in public practice, and to the industry, and must be funded by all. I think recognition must be given to those areas and those people that started meetings like this, where those ideas are conceived. With that, I would like to thank the three men in my life in the last 4 years, the Chancellor, Mr. Stuart Damison, the Vice-Chancellor, Satirius Prapas, and the Secretary General, Vipin Zambar, for his exuberant energy, for the opportunity to serve this meeting and this organization as the 26th President. And of course, I would like to thank my wonderful wife of 40 years, who seems to have the ability to bring out the best and the best in anyone, even Carlos Mestres. With that, Dr. Pia, I wish to thank you and congratulate you for the organization And I hope that by the end of this week we will have not only exchanged some ideas, but also some social skills as well. I thank you very much.
Yeah, I think it should be handing over the presidency. Okay, I understand that there is a ceremony for handing over the presidency to Dr. Pian. Yeah? Dr. Jameson is going to do that. Yeah, please.
So, as most of you are aware, the arrangement of the society is that we select 4 years in advance the chairman for the next meeting. At the beginning of the meeting, the chairman becomes the president of the society for the next year. So, Dr. Kleinlug, I really appreciate all the work that you've done over the last year, and I'm in great admiration for your achievements in surgery thus far, and wish you many years of professional success in the future. Dr. Pia, thank you so much for the organization and your commitment to this meeting, and we will induct you as president now until the next meeting, which will be in Ljubljana next year. Dr. Kleinlug has the gold medal of the society with the price of gold now. This is extremely valuable. So we will now, we'll hand it over now to Dr. Pia. I'm sure you're going to take very good care of it.
Thank you very much, Dr. Jameson. It's a great honor for our country that our representative, Dr. Pia, will be the president of the World Society for Cardiothoracic Surgery, at least for the next year. Let me introduce our next speaker, Dr. Ansong Chang. Dr. Ansong Chang is a professor and president of International Society for Minimally Invasive Cardiothoracic Surgery. He's a professor of University of British Columbia. He came from the beautiful city of Vancouver. And Dr. Chang has experience, of course, in heart transplant, in minimally invasive cardiac surgery, in transcatheter valve replacement. And about a year ago, Dr. Chang thrilled the world by performing 3 heart transplant in a row. So that we're very impressed, Dr. Chang. Please, welcome.
Thank you. Chancellor, President, and honored guest, I would like to take the opportunity for EastMix to thank the World Society for the opportunity to collaborate and co-sponsor the 27th Congress in Astana. And in addition, I'd like to take the opportunity to thank the Ministry of Public Health of Kazakhstan and Dr. Pia for their commitment and support for the successful meeting here. Just like to introduce EastMix to some of you here. EastMix stands for International Society for Minimally Invasive Cardiothoracic Surgery. Our society is founded in 1997, and we are truly an international society with over 900 members worldwide in over 42 nations. Our mission for our society is to promote and take a leadership role in minimally invasive technique to better the health of our patients. Our official journal, Innovations, has been indexed for the past 2 years and will be hopefully receiving upcoming impact factors in the next coming months. In this meeting, we have many of our past presidents, board members, and faculty that would like to present a variety of topics in minimally invasive surgery, including robotic revascularization, valvular surgery, catheter-based technology, and minimally invasive thoracic surgery. Our annual meeting will be held in this coming June 13 to 16 in my hometown, beautiful city of Vancouver. I would like to welcome you all to attend. Again, welcome to this meeting, and I would like to see you in Vancouver soon. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, according to our program, the next speaker was supposed to be Dr. Oskar Frisch, legendary cardiac surgeon who made important contribution to the development of cardiac surgery program in Kazakhstan. Unfortunately, Dr. Frisch couldn't come because he's from Houston and he's currently working in the community hospital, helping people of the city of Houston to recover from Hurricane Harvey. Our hearts with the people of Houston. We wish them endurance and recovery and in a long journey endeavor to recover from this terrible disaster. And we'd like to thank Dr. Frisch for his courage and spending his valuable time helping people to survive and to recover in these difficult moments. And on behalf of Dr. Frisch, I'd like to ask Dr. Walter Dembitsky to say a few words. I'm sure that many of us know Dr. Dembitsky as an accomplished cardiac surgeon, and we'll talk about him a little bit later. Please, Dr. Dembitsky.
Well, thank you for the opportunity, and to the Secretary and to the President and to Stuart, and especially Europea, who's become a good friend. So I'm an admitted technophile, and so is Bud Fraser. And he, in the United States, is the oldest guy interested in cardiovascular machinery, like left ventricular assist devices, but I'm the second oldest at 73. So it's not totally inappropriate that I'm here speaking for Bud, who's right now suffering the consequences of 1.5 meters of rainfall in 24 hours, which closed the Houston airports. So I first came here to Kazakhstan at the first meeting of the National Cardiovascular Center in 2011. That was a year before the first transplant was done here in Astana. And the next year, they actually used the transport machinery to transport a heart from Almaty. Now, I'm an admitted technophile, and so I like the spread of technology, but watching technology spread is very difficult sometimes, depending on the circumstances of society. We've helped start programs all up and down the Asia-Pacific area and even in the Bahamas with left ventricular assist devices. But it's been really, truly unique here in Kazakhstan. I remember distinctly coming here and thinking when I came, I knew that Kazakhstan was the home of the Apple, but I also knew it was the area for the aerospace launch from the Soviet Union, which it still remains to be. I remember saying distinctly after coming to the meeting, which was quite a bit smaller than this one, I must say, that I was expecting things to launch in the cardiovascular arena and to go travel quite far. When I returned again in 2014, things had traveled quite far. By then, left ventricular assist devices had been put in place, the transplant program had moved forward, the general cardiac surgery volumes had increased exponentially and spread into children and into more complex technologies, including portable ECMOs and more complex surgeries. So today, I come back and I see that the spread of the technology has really been unimpeded. So as a technophile, that's really rewarding, and it's exemplary here in Kazakhstan. It's a light in the world. I see Yuri at many meetings, and the way the system has grown here under his leadership with the sponsorship of the government here has been exemplary, and it's exemplary for the world. Just as an example, we've just now put in, I think, 78 or so. We put in 2 yesterday, HeartMate 3 left ventricular assist devices, which today seems to be the most advanced of that particular type of technology for mechanically supporting the heart. They've had great results. They are now becoming luminaries, not just in Central Asia, which used to be a dark spot on the map, but are becoming leaders globally. So with that, I'll conclude. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Dembitsky. It's my pleasure to introduce next speaker, Dr. Dr. Anthony Nobles. He's chairman of the board and CEO of Nobles Medical Technologies. Dr. Nobles introduced many innovative methods and technologies, more than 150, and he awarded more than 70 patents in many, many countries. He is originally from California, but I just pleased to learn that he has an office in Astana here, which means that he teaches at the medical university, the Nazarbayev University School of Medicine, and also help our students to learn more about his technology, but also about innovation of medicine in general. Please, Dr. Nobles.
Well, thank you. I asked him if I can wear a microphone because I'm not really good at standing still. So I'm going to be giving you a motivational talk today. I'd first like to thank my dear friend Yuri Pia, Madam Secretary, the chancellors and presidents, and changing of the guard, as it were. I appreciate the opportunity to speak in front of you. And I'm going to do something that's unusual, which is I've been asked to talk about myself, which is not something I'm very good at. I have no problem giving a lecture on medicine, medical devices, any of this sort of thing. But because I do a rather serious, crazy life, which Yuri found interesting from traveling to the South Pole with my buddy Buzz Aldrin and trying to figure out if it was like being on Mars or not, to racing Formula One cars, I lead a relatively unique life. But my passion is still medical devices, helping change medicine, and teaching. But I still get to do crazy things. I want to be an astronaut. I'm going to go up in space next year just for fun. That's how my life is. But my life didn't start that way. And what I'm here to do is to talk about what resilience is and how we change our lives. I wanted to inspire you the way I was inspired. But to do that, I got to tell you a little bit more about myself, which, again, is probably the more uncomfortable thing for me, is trying to talk about the things that I do. Those are my greatest achievements right there. Now, in talking about resilience, I will talk a little bit about my history. All that stuff you saw at the beginning looks really great. Wow, I got to go and do all these crazy, amazing things. I've done a lot of first-in-mans, and I've also done some relatively insane things like racing against Michael Schumacher in Nürburgring in the rain, which was probably more dangerous than jumping out of an airplane. But it didn't all start that way. My life started completely different. And Yuri's asked me to give you guys a sense of what it's like to come from a completely different environment. I grew up where you probably would never want to walk or be, in a place called Detroit, Michigan. And I managed to become successful later in life through hard work, resilience, and commitment. Now, that sounds all easy. These are like those little posters you always see. Resilience. We're going to be resilient. We're going to have commitment. We're going to do all these things. But let's start with, this is where I grew up. I didn't start in California. I started in the ghettos in Detroit. And when I was this big, we were living in houses like this, which I didn't understand. Why did my mom and my brother and I live in a house like this? Because we were homeless. We lived in houses that people had abandoned. We had no food. When you fight over a small bowl of food, you get to a point where you get really hungry. And it makes you change the way you think about life. Imagine this, a boy 8 years old, when I was hungry, how did I eat? I'd go to the back of restaurants and wait for them to throw the food you didn't eat away, and I would eat it out of the trash. And then I grew up in a very abusive environment, so I used to run away a lot. And I lived in a junkyard like this one. And in Michigan, it's not quite Astana in the winter, but it was very cold. And I can tell you, to this day, people who know me see me that I lived in that little junkyard in the back of a car in winter with no blankets and no clothes other than what I was wearing. That's why I still, to this day, can't stand to be cold. And I remember many, many times I ate my dinner out of someone else's trash can. So that's how my life started. But then there was a change. Like everybody, you get inspired by something. And one day, walking on the street with a bunch of other kids, most of which are dead now, I looked through a store window where they had televisions inside. And on that TV, I saw something that you won't guess, that inspired me, that changed my life, that said, I'm going to get out of here. I'm going to do something because I just saw something that I want. And the kids that I was standing with, they said to me, you will never have it. Now, I had a passion for what I saw, and you're going to see that in a minute. And when someone says, you will never have it, what happens to a 12-year-old boy? At that time, my dreams were crushed, shattered right in front of me, thinking, I guess I'm supposed to live like this. I'm not supposed to achieve anything. I'm supposed to fall down and not get back up. But that wasn't in my nature. This motivated me. I wanted what I saw on that TV. Now, strangely enough, what did I see? It wasn't anything magnanimous. I saw this beautiful car. It was a Ferrari Dino. And I saw that driving by on the TV screen, and it was like the most beautiful thing I ever saw in the world. And I said, I will have one someday. Now, you're talking to a guy who lives in a car, homeless, but I'm going to own that bright red Ferrari Dino. So that was my inspiration. Maybe not the best one. We all are inspired by many things, but that was mine. And I went from being a homeless child to forcing myself, I will go to school, I'll learn. How can I start to make money? Well, I lived in a junkyard. There were a lot of radios in that junkyard. My first business that I established when I was 14 years old was taking the radios out of the junked cars, repairing them, and selling them. And that's how I started to make a living. I taught myself electronics. I taught myself physics. I didn't really like going to school, but I realized I better go to school and get a decent education, because otherwise, how am I ever going to afford that beautiful red Ferrari? So I went to high school. This was the high school I went to in West Los Angeles, which was a really big step up for me when I moved to California where my dad lived. But I only spent about a year in high school, and I took a test so I could get out and go to college. And I went to many colleges, but I didn't have anybody giving me any money, so I had to work. So here I am, a 17-year-old kid, and I started designing electronics, working in an electronics company, and that gave me an idea all of you probably have in your pocket or in your hand right now today. You ever held an iPad in your hand or a laptop? Did you know the first patent for this type of a device was in 1988 by a 17-year-old kid? And I had this idea because books were heavy. So I created this device you see here, which had little ports, which you would now call a USB port, 20 years before they existed. A computer you could carry 20 years before it existed. And then I thought, well, where am I going to get all this information for my computer that I had created? So I thought, the Library of Congress has all these great books. How do I get it from there? So I created this, an idea to take technology and transmit data over telephone lines to a computer at a school that I could plug into, download, and ask questions back and forth. Now, I always get harangued about this, but yeah, it was the early version of the internet. So I took it to this gentleman when I was about 17, 18 years old, and his name is Ross Perot. He was a billionaire, a friend of my father's, knew him. I took my technology there. I sat on that little couch in his office with him for over an hour as he told me his life story. And then he said to me, this is one of the greatest inventions I've ever seen. But kid, you're 20 years too early, and I can only invest in one of two projects, yours or the kid who's been sitting next to you. I looked over and he said, I'm going to go with Mr. Jobs. Have a nice day. And so that was Steve Jobs, and he got funding for Next, and I didn't get my funding, and I felt like a failure. So that was my first real big rejection in business. God, I had this great idea, and I failed. But did I fall down? No. I got back up, and I persevered. Why? Because when I was living in a junkyard, when I didn't have food to eat, I could either lay down and die, or I could get up. I could walk. I could start walking forward, and I did. And my passion for medicine, and I could never afford to go to medical school when I was young, but I wanted to be a doctor. But what I did is I started as an engineer because that was cheaper. And I had a knack for it, and I started inventing equipment. Now, many of you in here have done many procedures using something I've created, and you probably don't even know it. If you've ever done endoscopy, if you've ever done thoracoscopic surgery, you've used something I invented. This was one of the early systems, and I found this on the internet. Somebody shot this video in 1988. Believe it or not, that fat guy is me, without all the facial hair. So it's kind of interesting because I had a passion for walking into your environment. My job was to sit down with the Europeas of the world, walk in a room and say, tell me what doesn't work. You speak about being a technophile. I'm the ultimate technophile when it comes to things. I understand anatomy and I understand engineering, and what I wanted to do is make your job better, make your job faster. So I created my first medical device company, and it took off. You heard of companies like Storz, Wolf, ACMI, and you've used that equipment? That's what made me a success. Baxter, Edwards, all of those things that you've touched in your life as a cardiac surgeon or an interventional cardiologist have had some relationship to the companies whose products I designed. So then I started building more medical companies, and then I'd sell them. And I'd build another company, and then I'd sell it. Laparoscopic surgery, OBGYN, any area in medicine I could touch would get me excited. And I'd be like, I can come up with a new way to do that. I can change that. And I took those companies, and I was very lucky and very blessed, and I sold them to the really big companies in the world, companies like Cordis, Johnson & Johnson. These companies came to me and said, we need these technologies. Boston Scientific, if any of you have ever used the heartstring device, well, thank you for paying me a royalty. That's very nice of you. But on one day, even now as an adult again, failure struck. Everything blew up in my face because I did a business deal. I thought I was a brilliant businessman. I was 28 years old. I was a multi-millionaire. Yay, I was really good. No, I wasn't. I made a mistake, and these people ripped me off, and I lost everything. I was married with 5 children at that age, and I all of a sudden had nothing to my name. I lost everything. The only thing we retained was our house. And I'll never forget the day that I came home and told my wife this, and I literally said, honey, we've lost everything. And she knew it from the look on my face. But she didn't worry. She told me, get up, start over. We can do this again. And so I thought about it, and I said, yeah, again, move forward. Just keep moving forward. If you don't move forward, you fall down and die. Now, I don't know if you can hear, if you can turn the audio up just a little bit for this part. Because I don't like talking about myself, some friends came to my aid when I lost everything, and they supported me, and they gave me inspiration. And these were the stories they told about me, which I feel a little uncomfortable watching them do it. But if you can turn up the audio a little bit so you can hear what they're saying. Oh, maybe not. So what this is these are the people that I built my career around. This is Jan Vanke. He's a neurosurgeon in Germany, who I have been developing neurosurgery equipment with for over 25 years.
Meeting somebody whom I could tell what a practical problem I have, and an hour later he comes up with an idea how to solve the problem. That was the first major difference between Tony Nobles and any other engineers I met. And I'm telling you that this is my personal experience. Tony Nobles is the first and the only biomedical engineer who showed me in my OR on my patients being anesthetized how to perform a special brain operation, an endoscopic third ventriculoscopy. This is the treatment for hydrocephalus.
My name is Dr. William Cohn, or Billy Cohn, and I'm a cardiothoracic surgeon in the Division of Heart Failure and Mechanical Circulatory Assist at the Texas Heart Institute. The Texas Heart Institute is the busiest heart failure program in the United States, situated here in the middle of the Texas Medical Center, the largest medical center on planet Earth. One guy that I've had the distinct pleasure to work with is Tony Nobles. Tony really is unlike anybody else that I've worked with because of his passion and his understanding of both the intricacies of clinical medicine and physiology, and he has the brilliance of a true inventor and the experience of a skilled engineer. He's all wrapped up in one person, and you won't find that in too many places. Tony, working with a surgeon Bellotti, had envisioned this, he had designed it, he had made it. And I called him and I said, I want this, I want this. Tony came out to my hospital, we did a couple cases. It was a brilliant, brilliant device. Ultimately, it was licensed by another industrial effort that turned it into a device that's now called the heartstring. And I think it's been used in over 100,000 cases. It's a real staple in the cardiovascular surgeon's tool belt, and it was developed by Tony Nobles, and that's how I got to meet him. And just working with him on that and talking to him about other projects, I immediately realized that this was a unique guy, and tried to insert myself into Tony's world.
I've known Tony since 2006, I think we met. You know, what struck me when I met Tony for the first time was his incredible energy, his incredible enthusiasm, and just his insightfulness. So from the outset, it struck me that Tony was somebody I could work with, and that this was a man who really could, you know, and would move things forward, and that's proved to be the case, because not only has we've gone on to develop this PFO device, which is just absolutely fabulous, but we've seen the same technology now being used in other areas in the heart, and of course that's only a little bit of what Tony Nobles does, because he's got this, you know, he just has, there's no end to where Tony will not apply innovation and just a new way of thinking, but not just thinking. Tony actually is somebody who can make it happen.
That was probably very hard for you to watch. It was very hard for me to watch. But there's a reason why they offered to do that. And again, to build success, I needed the motivation. And when you lose everything and you've got 5 kids at home, it's a little harder to bounce back. And all my friends came to my side and said, get up, keep walking, do it again. And so I did. The very next day after talking to Billy Cohn, I got back up. I founded several new companies, all of which made really big strides, great instruments, and after that, I sold them again. Now, what you're about to watch, and I'll let this play in a second, is one of the devices that we do here in Astana on a regular basis. This is for closure of PFO, but this was a unique first-in-man case where what we did is we actually discovered the patient had an ASD, a PFO, and an atrial septal aneurysm. And I was in this case, and Dr. Nielsen asked me, do you think we can do it? And I said, well, there's enough redundant septum there. I know I can suture it. You have to think that what we're doing is bridging these gaps that you've talked about. We're trying to find ways to do what I was trained originally with, which is to take a needle and thread and suture something, but put it in percutaneously so that it's minimally invasive. And that's what this device does. We designed it primarily for PFO closure, and now we use it for going in and closing small ASDs, and as you know, the incidence in stroke in patients who actually have a septal aneurysm is higher if they have a PFO and a septal aneurysm. So our goal was to repair the septal aneurysm, close the ASD, and close the PFO all in the same patient. It was an extremely successful procedure, and since that time, we've now done this procedure multiple times all over the world, whereas the PFO closure has now become a standard of care. And one thing, and Dr. Sally Katarova later today is going to actually give the data on this, and you're going to see the data is pretty shocking because we actually have a technology that does what we all want to do. We want to go in and close a PFO, but we don't want is to leave something behind. So what I always say at the cardiology conferences when I talk to the doctors, I say, you know, there's usually 1 or 2 cardiac surgeons in the room, and I ask the interventional cardiologists, if I cut your chest open, and I cut your heart open, and I can see a PFO or an ASD, would you ever put that umbrella in that patient? In open heart surgery, would you slip an umbrella into a PFO or an ASD? No. What would you do? You'd suture it. And this has been the entire part of my career, was looking at what you do every day and try to find a way to do it less invasively. So to have the ability to go into a PFO 60, 70 centimeters away and put a suture in just like you do in open surgery and not leave anything behind but polypropylene. And guess what? Not only does it work, and it works better than these umbrellas, but it doesn't have things like migration, erosion, perforation. I was doing cases with a cardiologist in Germany, Horst Sievert, when we were doing this very procedure. He got a phone call from a patient. He put an umbrella in, actually from their doctor, in 2001. That umbrella tore through, and that patient fell down dead. So when you look at technology, The goal is to eliminate gadgets and things and make minimally invasive surgery still surgery, but do it in a way that's percutaneous. So that's what that device was about. Once I had that device and I started doing work, I was invited to come to a place called Kazakhstan, which you guys are all here today. And I will tell you, it was a very interesting experience because I came here because I was inspired by a guy named Nazarbayev. The president of this country had a phenomenal philosophy, a really incredible guy who had a long-term vision. But everybody kept asking me, why are you here? Why did you come here? Well, I came here to bridge these gaps, both between our countries, and we have this idea of working with an incredible cardiac surgeon, Yuri Pia, and some great cardiologists. We have Sarek here, I think he's in the audience somewhere, and Sauli. They were very innovative and said, we want to work with you. We want to do incredible things like you're doing. What can we do? I said, well, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take transapical, because with mitral valve repairs and things like this, transapical looks like it's going to be a necessary modality, but we're going to eliminate the cut down. We're going to come up with a percutaneous way to do a cardiac suture the way you would do it, and do it without the need of opening the chest. No limited thoracotomy, no cracking the chest. We're just going to literally do it through a puncture. Now, working with Yuri Pia and his staff here, we did what had never been done before. We did a first-in-man cardiac procedure in Kazakhstan. Before we did it anywhere else in the entire world, we came here, and Yuri, myself, Timur, I think he's here as well, Sarek, we all came together with doctors from England. Everybody came together, and we did this first-in-man procedure, which set a goal to show that Kazakhstan has now become a leader. So we've opened a facility here, we're doing research here, and we're actually going to have an entire group of new innovations that come from Nazarbayev University in conjunction with us and with Dr. Pia to change interventional cardiology and cardiac surgery. So my motto in life is, a successful adult is a child that just never gave up. That's, if you make it that far and you're still creative, it's because you never gave up. Hard work, perseverance, and commitment, they never taught me to let go of my childhood. I still remember living in the car. Now, this looks a little ostentatious for a second, but I still live in a junkyard. I just put better cars in it. So my junkyard's a little nicer than the one I grew up in. But you think, when you look at this, that, oh, that is success. It is not success. What having success teaches you is, it's got nothing to do with all of these things. And one day I walked past all these cars, and right up here in a second, you're going to see, there's the car that I saw on TV when I was a kid. It now sits in my garage. And I thought, wow, I'm successful. I made it. But then I realized that was not success. What gave me joy, what gave me happiness was not money. Strangely enough, when you don't have it, you think it's the most important thing in the world. But when you do have it, you realize it's not. The things you can't buy, happiness, fulfillment, friendship, family, all of these things. And the greatest thing in my life that I realized, without a penny to my name, my wife stood by me. My children were there. And I realized that when I was down and I had to get up, every single time, it was thinking about them that got me up off the ground. That was my motivation. It wasn't, I want that Ferrari. That was just the thing that started it. It was, I can't wait to see my wife. Oh my God, I'm having a bad day. And at the end, excuse me, and at the end, I still get to drive 250 miles an hour. And that's me leaving, which, again, I will leave now. Thank you very much for your attention. I hope you found that inspirational. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Noble's truly inspirational story, motivating many young individuals to become innovator like you and to reach their goals. We will agree that perseverance, hard work, and commitment are probably the keys in achieving the goals and ambitions. We have another similar story as how perseverance, hard work, commitment, and far-sighted judgment can help to reach the goals and to become a person who is well recognized as a leading cardiac surgeon, not only in Kazakhstan, but also in the whole region. And that person is, as you can imagine, is Dr. Yuri Pya, who is a good friend of mine, and the president-elect of the World Society for Cardiothoracic Surgeons. It's a great privilege to know Yuri. We've been friends since 2006 when I met him. And I remember that first meeting when Yuri said, okay, I have the goal to implant a left ventricular assistant device. And just 5 years after that, together with Dr. Jan Pirk, they introduced first left ventricular assistant device and performed first heart transplant surgery in Kazakhstan. Dr. Pya graduated from Moscow National Medical University many years ago. Since then, he worked as the general surgeon in community hospitals, in various hospitals in Kazakhstan, in Kyrgyzstan. He spent a great deal of time in Turkey, in Gaziantep, in Adana. He gained experience as cardiac surgeon in Turkey. Also, he spent some time in Ann Arbor, Michigan, trained there. About 15 years ago, Dr. Pya returned to Kazakhstan, and it became immediately clear that his knowledge, his experience, his passion are absolutely exemplary, and he immediately became recognized leading cardiac surgeon in Kazakhstan. And about 6 years ago, he was appointed as a director of National Cardiac Surgery Center. It's my pleasure also to know Dr. Pya's family. His beautiful wife, Tamara, is here with us. They have 2 children. And what's also important, Dr. Pya trained many young cardiac surgeons, and it's great to see all of you in this room. It's my honor to invite Dr. Pya to the podium, President-elect of World Society for Cardiothoracic Surgeons. Please.
Dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, it gives me great pleasure to extend to you all very warm welcome to the 27th Congress of the World Society of Cardiovascular and Thoracic Surgeons in 2017 in the heart of Eurasia, Astana, the capital of Kazakhstan. First of all, I would like to express thanks to the WSCTS for the opportunity to host the Congress. I remember how in 2014 in Geneva, Astana received the status of host country of the 27th WSCTS Annual Congress. The concept of this society parallels the slogan of the Congress, bridging the gaps, making connection between countries and connection between us. I would also like to extend my sincere gratitude to our President, Mr. Nursultan Nazarbayev, and the government of Kazakhstan for their invaluable and unrelenting support. Dear participants, likely this is the first visit to our country for many of you. And before this visit, you may have had mixed feelings and doubts. But everyone who comes here falls in love. I'm sure that the hospitality of the Kazakh people, beauty of the nature, uniqueness of the cuisine, richness of the history, and traditions, all these together will definitely be a sweet memory for you in the future. Welcome to Astana. The Kazakh people have a proverb, "Yelu zhilda, yel zhana," which means in 50 years, the world will be renewed. It has been 50 years since the first heart transplantation was performed. During these last 50 years, the world has changed considerably. A new era in cardiac surgery has come. The world changes, history goes on, and we can change the world for the better together. Today, during the Congress, we have an opportunity to share valuable experience and gain new insight. We are gathered here today because we all share a common goal. Perhaps this is naive, but it is a goal of making our world a better place. I would like to wish all of us an interesting Congress, participation in which is always a great honor and pleasure. Kazakhstan has undertaken a noble commitment to ensure that we bridge the gap with a platform for live discussions on emerging issues, which we believe will become one more step toward our goal. Thank you very much.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, now it is probably the most pleasant part of today's opening session, which is presenting National Recognition Award to 4 distinguished gentlemen who made important contribution to development of Kazakhstan healthcare. It's my honor to ask His Excellence Minister of Health of Kazakhstan, Dr. Yilzhan Birtanov, to present those awards. Please. Before we will bring the awards to the podium, let me say a few words about Dr. Birtanov. Dr. Birtanov has a background in healthcare, in emergency medicine in particular. Dr. Birtanov spent a great deal of time by working in the area of public health. He led several healthcare organizations and worked in the area of healthcare research, worked for the government and also in academia at Nazarbayev University. The medical community of Kazakhstan were very pleased to learn about 6 months ago when Dr. Birtanov was appointed by President as Minister of Health of Kazakhstan. He has very important, very challenging task, but we're very confident that we'll be very successful under leadership of Dr. Birtanov. Please, the National Recognition Awards presented to the leaders in cardiac surgery, those who made contribution to Kazakhstan healthcare, and the first person is Dr. Jan Pirk. Please, Dr. Jan Pirk. Dr. Pirk, are you here? Oh, here is coming. Dr. Pirk is from Prague, Czech Republic, and he's a person who made a very important contribution in developing Kazakhstan's cardiac surgery program, and specifically introduction of left ventricular assistant device and heart transplant. About 5 years ago, together with Yuripia, they introduced first heart transplant and LVAD. Please welcome Dr. Jan Pirk. Dr. Walter Dembitsky. It's a great pleasure and honor, Dr. Dembitsky, that you're with us today. Dr. Dembitsky also made very important contribution to Kazakhstan's LVAD program. Dr. Dembitsky is a medical director at Sharp Medical in San Diego, and he came here to join us at today's important event. Please. Thank you, Dr. Dembitsky. Dr. Oscar Freysch, as mentioned, Dr. Freysch cannot join us today because he is in Houston helping people in Houston, but he made very important contribution and helped our cardiac surgeons to develop skills and methods of cardiac surgery, and we're very pleased to have Dr. Frazier as our friend. Please, let's welcome. And Dr. Said Khan Jashubayev, it's a great pleasure to have you with us. Dr. Jashubayev is our first leader in cardiac surgery. Many years ago, he performed first cardiac surgeries in Kazakhstan. He came from Kyrgyz Republic, and he founded the Department of Cardiac Surgery's National Surgery Center. And since then, he mentored and helped many young cardiac surgeons to develop these skills and supported the whole program. It's a great pleasure, Dr. Jashubayev. Okay, Dr. Birtanov, I'd like to say a few words, please.
Thank you, Almas. I just want to say that it's a big honor and great pleasure for me to give these awards. It says for valuable input for development of healthcare of Kazakhstan. So there is no doubt of your input to our healthcare, and on behalf of the Ministry of Healthcare of Kazakhstan and the people of Kazakhstan, I would like to thank you all for your input to support our healthcare system. Special thanks to Dr. Yuri Pia, who organized together with his colleagues this wonderful event, and taking this opportunity one more time, I wish you a great communication, great passion, and wonderful stay in Astana. Please enjoy our city and enjoy Expo. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Birtanov. This concludes our today's opening session. Now it's going to be coffee break, and we anticipate 3 more days of important discussions and meetings and presentations. Thank you.